this episode of Renewables and Things, we met up with a leading local solar company in Bali, Indonesia, to learn more about the solar market in Southeast Asia. We discussed everything from the renewable energy market, local politics, and the tourism industry's increasing shift towards sustainability to meet customer demands. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, so we're here in Bali, Indonesia. We're here in Neko Solar. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us how you got started, where you came from, and how you started doing solar in Bali.
Okay, so my name is Benoit. I'm French Australian, but as you can tell, I'm more French than Australian. And I've been in Bali for 3 years now. I started to work in wind farms. I came here with a renewable energy developer, and we started the construction, and it got completed of the first utility scale wind farm in Indonesia in Sidrap.
Oh wow!
And then I was freelancing and for a large project, doing some technical advisory for utility scale project like wind farms and solar farms in the region, Southeast Asian region. But as you can see, there is a lot of sun in Bali, not that many solar panels, and I thought, maybe there is a business to do here about that. And the price of the solar panels going down, electricity going up. At some stage it's gonna meet, and I just wanted to get ready for when it's gonna happen.
Totally. So I want to hear more about your wind projects. Were those all government run, or who?
So here in Indonesia, what's happening is you need a power purchase agreement for all these utility scale projects. So the PLN is the state-owned utility company, which basically generate but also distribute and sell power. So you can only buy power to PLN.
I see.
So you cannot do business to business. So a company cannot buy from another company like it's the case in the US or in Australia or other more sophisticated markets. So you need PLN to buy it. So you need a power purchase agreement with PLN, and PLN is a bit shy, if I may say.
Sure.
They are more and more encouraged to do so, but it's new to them. It's intermittent, so for them it's a risk for the grid management. So it's there's a lot of negotiation involved in that case, but. If you don't have a PPA, you don't have a project. Basically, you need the offtake agreement to be able to get started.
So is it the same model with solar as well right now?
For solar, it's a bit different. So solar, there is a legislation that allows you there is a net metering. So there is no feed-in tariff or anything like that, but you can self-generate, you can self-consume. If you generate too much, you can export to the grid, and the grid, PLN, is gonna not buy it from you, but it's gonna give you a credit on your bill. So after it's an accounting exercise, and they're you're gonna get a credit for your electricity, but it's valued at 65%. So assuming you buy $100 the megawatt hour, you're gonna sell it. They're gonna give you a credit for 65. So it's in rupiah, obviously. It's different rates, but that gives you the idea. So the idea is to size the system where you're gonna self-consume as much as possible, because they don't want to get your power. They don't want to buy your power back. To make sense, so in terms of return on investment and payback period, self-consuming is the best option. Sometimes you gonna export, but the idea is to minimize the export.
Sure.
You can do, and it's limited to 25 kilowatt peak, this legislation. However, in Bali, they allow us to go up to 200 kilowatts.
Okay.
So that's good. We are kind of lucky.
Yeah, that's interesting. So talk about the current energy generation models here. I know you're saying there's a plant north of here who's all run on coal, fossil fuels.
Yeah, I mean, the energy mix of Indonesia is 88% fossil fuel.
Wow.
So coal, oil, gas, and 12% renewable energy. Out of this 12%, it's mostly geothermal, because we're on the ring of fire. There's a couple of volcanoes around, so there is hot lava very close by. So it does make sense to have geothermal plants here, and a lot of hydro as well.
Hydro.
Yeah, hydro.
Oh, from all the rivers.
Yeah,
because it's a lot of rain here, obviously. That makes sense.
Yeah, and renewable energy like solar or wind is say 0.1% of the energy mix of the generation which is consumed. So it's really the beginning of our solar energy here, but I'm sure there is a bright future, and we see more and more momentum from the government, from PLN, that they start to embrace it. But it's it's not super fast. It's not as fast as in Vietnam. For instance, Vietnam, they have subsidies. They have very strong commitment from the government to deploy solar, either rooftop or utility scale. Here, it's the beginning.
So what political, I guess, influence helped it expand so rapidly in Vietnam? Was it a political factor, or is it an economic factor? How are they able to adopt it and get these incentives?
I think it's a political, but the Vietnam and Indonesia are very similar countries in terms of maybe not population size, but in terms of they're both developing country, have a 6% growth per year, and don't have much renewable installed yet. However, in Vietnam, they don't have coal. Here there's a lot of coal, so there's a lot of I would say a vested interest between the energy of the Minister of Energy,
that's what I thought.
PLN, and the independent producers and the coal industry. So the model is not going to change from one day to another, but what we want to do is try to increase the market share of renewables. While in Vietnam, they don't have any resource, so they're completely dependent on importing their fuel, and they have a lot of sun. They have a bit of wind, but now with the technology of wind evolving, you can harvest more energy out of lower wind speeds. So it makes sense over there, and they have very good. They have subsidies that we don't have here for rooftop solar. The only subsidy we have is you can export your excess generation. That's it. You cannot. There's no like Australia. I mean, I've been trained in Australia to design and install according to Australian standards, because that's what I wanted to give to my clients to make sure we're doing the right thing. And over there, panels are almost for free because the government subsidizes it.
Wow.
And there's a real wholesale market that we don't have here. So we have to import everything, and there is no subsidy whatsoever. So if we had the same subsidies as the coal industry, I'm sure it will pick up much faster. Yeah.
Do you foresee that happening eventually, or do you think it's still, obviously it'll take a while because the coal industry here has every incentive to maintain?
I think it will take a while, but people are motivated. The motivation of people with who we install solar panels is obviously it needs to make sense financially, but they're also driven by the fact that they want to do the good thing. So they want to basically show commitment toward the environment and sustainability. So it has to make sense. If you tell them 12 years payback period, well, it's a bit of a turn off, but we can reach on the best projects a 6 years payback period, and on top of that you're setting CO2 emissions, particle emissions. So that's good. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Makes sense. What's the ballpark price per watt here that you're selling energy at?
In US dollar?
Sure.
I would say,
my audience is primarily US, so if you know the conversion, but if not,
because I give price in US dollars, because most of my clients are expatriates. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So most Australian, but also some from the US. So it's a good reference to have. So depending on the size of the system, obviously the bigger the cheaper, but it's between 1.3 to below $1 per watt.
Really? Wow, that's a lot cheaper than California.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we just knew we're starting, so we want to get a market share, so obviously we have to be reasonable in terms of margins.
Sure, of course.
And we're also using a different technology than the traditional one, so we're saving first on the cost of the inverter, but also the cost of the system, balance of system and installation. So try to find something which is, for this market you need to be cheap. I don't want to be that cheap to jeopardize the quality and the safety. So what I want to do is something good, very reliable, but as affordable as possible. It's still, for the local people, still a big capital expenditure or investment. And the next big step will be to get financial institution involved that will basically allow to lease the plants or the system rather than buying it upfront. Right now, most of the clients buy it upfront, but there are also companies that are doing some leasing. But for that, you need a bigger system, so it's more for commercial projects. But the day they will be interested in doing this for ABC customers, that will be a big difference.
Let's talk about commercial, because I see a lot of businesses around there. Obviously, hotels use a lot of energy. Just tourism in general, just all the different tourism groups. Did you work with commercial as well?
Yes, we start, but we do, and we have inquiries, and people, especially as you mentioned, hotels, resorts, are interested in the sustainability aspects, and that's what we tell them. We tell them, look, this is a marketing tool, so. Sure. Do you know any who doesn't like eco-friendly companies? Yeah. So the question is, do you think that being eco-friendly will help you make more sales, and so on? And so yes. So do you think that having solar panels is gonna help you being more eco-friendly, and so on? So we try to make them understand, if they don't already know it, some of them do know, that having solar panels will help them. On the marketing side, on the sales side, as well as saving electricity.
Eventually, it pays
over
back,
the long term. You will get it. But on top of that, you can also increase your sales, because that's what more and more clients are looking for.
Of course.
And there is a big push for sustainability from the government, the Bali government, because now they start to ban single-use plastic. So when you go in shop, they shouldn't be allowed to give you a plastic.
Oh, so it's banned now. Because I was here 6 years ago, and I remember it was it was everywhere. Plastic bags, plastic straws, and now I noticed we go all the cafes here. It's all bamboo straws, metal straws. So that's mandated now by the government.
It's the single-use plastic bag. Yes, it's forbidden. How is it enforced and how is it controlled? That's another question. Sure. But businesses start to understand now that they know that having all these straws and plastic all over the place are gonna give a bad advertising to the island, and the tourists don't want to see that, and been already quite some bad advertising on social media in the past, so they want to avoid that. So it's for their own benefit, basically. They want to survive. They need tourists to come. Of course. So to attract tourists, you need to be clean. Yeah.
I also want to talk about, there's a lot of expatriates you're saying here. Those are your primary customers. Yeah. What's been their incentive and motivation, you think? Do you see that increasing, more expatriates moving here?
Yes, there are a lot of Australian, because it's very close to Australia, and the cost of living is much cheaper than Australia. So usually people, for their retirement, they want to move or have this option. So the good thing is they know about the technology as well. They know it works, and they know they're going to save money over the long term, because in Australia 25% of the houses now, or the buildings, have rooftop solar.
25%?
About 25%.
Do you know how that compares to the US? I think it's like less than 1% of all residential homes, I think, have adopted solar.
But there is good sun, there is good subsidies, and what else? I forgot what I was to say. It does make sense. There is a wholesale market as well. And sorry, maybe you want to cut because I forgot.
Oh, no worries. No, this is all fine.
Okay,
I'm thinking out loud here too.
Okay.
That's really cool though.
And they know. And so it's about 150 megawatt installed of rooftop solar per month now in Australia. It is a smaller market. It's 26 million people.
Okay.
It's much smaller.
So what happens when the solar market matures and reaches that plateau? Is that starting to happen yet, you think, in Australia?
In Australia, yes, starting to plateau. So the number of installation or the megawatt installed per month starting to reach its maximum. And what's happening is now the government are starting to cut off the subsidies. So, as you know, subsidies, it's good at the beginning. It's like a kid. You need to hold his hands when he's learning to walk, and after when he walks by itself, you don't need to hold his hands. So, the rooftop solar is a bit the same now. Costs is becoming much more affordable, and it makes sense financially without having any subsidy. So that's why here we get starting without any subsidy. And I see in Australia people start to complain because of the cutting of the subsidies, but I want to tell them, like, look how it is here. We don't have anything, but it employs many more people in Australia than it does here. And there was a big waves, and it always comes with the subsidy level and how it's updated. So
Sure.
a lot of fluctuation, but for the last couple of years, it's been growing, and almost every electrician now is an rooftop PV installer.
Yeah.
In Australia, I got a training over there, and there was only electricians in the training. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So how about the commercial side of things? Is that starting to plateau as well, or is there still a lot of room to grow there?
In Australia, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I think it should make more and more sense. Ultimately, but you need to make sure, to match obviously the demand, and I think it's a very good fit because you have the consumption during daytime at the same time where you have the generation. So it's not like a residential where most of the time people are away during the day, and so you have your peak of generation while there is no much consumption. So you can store, or you can feed back to the grid, and you get paid for that. But commercial is it's a much better fit.
Very good. So I guess if there's someone in Indonesia interested in getting solar, what's your process to educate them, walk them through, and help them understand if it's the right investment for them?
Okay, that's a very good point that you mentioned. You say educate them, and we did realize that there was a lot of I wouldn't call that education, but awareness to bring to the people that don't know solar. I went to see a hotel, and I was talking with the chief engineering, and he told me, I don't like solar because we had solar hot water. It doesn't work. And
what was this? Well, go up. Can you elaborate? What kind of solar hot? You just had a solar hooked up to a hot water heater?
Yeah.
And it didn't make it hot enough, I guess, or?
I guess it didn't work, or it had a lot of things to, I don't know, he was not convinced.
Okay.
So after I told him, look, yes, this is different. This is electricity, and it's been proven, it works, and it's getting a huge momentum around the world, and it's working, otherwise it wouldn't get such a momentum. So all that to say that there is a lot of awareness to bring about the technology, and a lot of socialization that needs to be done. So what we do, we're also sustainability enthusiasts, and we try to bring this awareness at the school level. We believe that obviously that the changes will be made by the future generation. So I'm doing some presentation in schools to raise awareness about sustainability or renewable energy, or even in a university nearby about entrepreneurship, and explain what I was doing. So it's good to tell the kids, because they're gonna make the changes that my generation or the older generation maybe doesn't care about, and that's their world, and they want to. The solution is gonna come from them as well, and obviously. We're going to help as much as possible, and try to deploy as many solar panels as possible. But there will be other solutions going to evolve, but it's good that they are aware, especially regarding to the plastic pollution. If you tell the kids that there are two aspects to consider. Is first the lack of awareness, so people don't know that when they throw the bag in the river, that it's going to end up in the ocean, it's going to end up in the fish, it's going to end up in their stomach. So first, that's the thing we show them, and we show them fish with open stomach and see all the plastic, or birds with open stomach with all the plastic that there is in it. So it's don't want to shock them, but you want to show them that that's the reality, that's what's happening. The second thing is they don't have the infrastructure to recycle or to sort out the thing. So
well, even the U.S. too, same thing. Well, we just ship all our single-use plastics out to Asia. Everyone thinks that it gets recycled, but it's only a very small fraction.
Malaysia, Myanmar,
small fraction gets recycled, but people feel okay buying bottled water all day. So, it gets recycled, but they don't see the other side of the chain.
I think there's a tiny portion would get recycled, and the rest ends up in the landfill, and start to pollute all the grounds. And so there are two things: cultural and infrastructural, if I may say. Yeah. So there are plenty of things to do, and maybe that will be the job of the government to basically fund this kind of project about recycling. I'm doing some at my home. We have a a company that comes to collect the waste, and we separated the plastic from the paper, but they send it to Surabaya to be treated. So environmentally speaking, so you have a truck going over to Surabaya to palletize the waste. It's not super efficient. It would be much better to have it in Bali. I think there is enough trash in Bali to justify this, but this is a very different problem, and the waste collection is a problem. The cost, you need to find a business model that shows there is value in the trash, and there are people who will make money out of it, but to make that understand to the population and to make them understand that they're going to get more money by putting it in the right bin than throwing it in the river, it is going to take a bit, money usually awakes people, so if you can find something quick to make them understand that, I guess it's going to be a big part of the solution.
That's very cool. So what chose you, so we kind of went over this again, but I'm just curious, why do you want to do business in Indonesia here?
I was here, and it's a nice place to be, and I got my second child here, and the good thing is you have support when you have a child and you don't sleep a lot and all these things, so it's very good to have support. So we started, okay, we've just been here for a year, let's stay here. And after I saw this, it's kind of there's a lot of sun and not that many solar panels.
That's what I was thinking. I drive around, same thing. I don't see there's so much sun. And there's a lot of air conditioning running all the time.
Exactly, there's a lot of demand for that. And while for utility scale, that's big project. They can take up to 5 to 8 years to get to completion. Rooftop panels is going to take maybe between 2 and 6 months to get a project between the first time you speak to the client to the time you commission it. Sure. So there's many more. For me, every roof is an opportunity. So, and you don't have to go directly through PLN where you need someone to buy your power, because right now you're going to just self-consume. That's the idea. So we tell them, better self-consume. I like to sell them as many panels as possible, but I want to manage expectation as well. So they expect the bill to. Some people tell me, I want to cut my bill completely. I say, no, it's not going to be possible for X and Y reasons because of the regulation. And but we find something. Okay, what are your drivers? What do you want to achieve? And what is your budget? And try to find the right solution for them.
Sure. Battery storage, is that catching on here? Is there a need for battery storage here yet?
There is a need, but it's expensive. So it's not as cheap, and you don't have the wholesale market that you can get in the US. So for instance, we've been trying to speak to Tesla, but I don't know if they set up their operation for them, and even some other suppliers from China. I told them, look, I've got a client for you, give me a price and tell me where I can source your battery. The guy didn't never get back to me.
Really?
And I told him, he tell me, how many clients do you have? I said, look, I need a price. I cannot sell without a price. And the guy just like it. He like your solution. So I think we'll find the right trade-off, but they have to give me something. And the guy said, no, but if you want, you can buy a container of worth $200,000 US. I said, no, I can't. I don't know if how fast I'm going to sell them. So it's going to be complicated. But it's expensive, but there is also a market for off-grid and people who have not access to the grid.
Interesting.
Where it makes sense.
Okay, like all these villages I've seen kind of on the outskirts, they don't get...
Not a lot of them. There's a lot
they're not hooked up to utilities.
It is 92%. The electrification rate is 92% in Indonesia. So you got 8% with out of 260 or 70,000 people is about maybe 20 million people who don't have access to electricity. So there is a big market for rural electrification, and that's where battery microgrid will make sense.
Yeah, and that's where you really need that government push to kind of, it's because think about how much more you could educate, more better schools going on, plumbing, all kinds. It could just, and then you're going to see that return from all these educated and lifting these villages out of poverty.
And usually these guys, they run on genset. So the genset is expensive, it pollutes.
Genset? What's that?
Generator, diesel generator.
Oh wow. Okay,
And then they have it's intermittent, maybe they have 2 to 4 hours a day. So not 24 hours. So solar will make a big...
Perfect.
But you have to find someone to fund the project up front. So sometimes it's I know of a project it's been but actually funded by your taxes in the US by the US Development Agency. But it's it should be. I mean, the government should be here, help to catalyze this private sector investment and help make a profitable business model for everyone. But you bring electricity to a village, they can have fridges, they can save food, they can put the light at night. It's, if the villages in the, near the ocean and they fish, they can store the fish. It makes a big difference to their livelihood.
So going forward, I guess, kind of to wrap things up, what do you think the steps would be in order to get the government to be more engaged with helping Indonesia adopt solar? Do you think it's even feasible? Just because these coal plants, the same thing in the US, they're really powerful. They're very powerful lobbyists.
That's definitely a problem. And what I think it's gonna take some time because the current president Jokowi has some big. They signed the Paris Agreement, so they have targets for renewable energy and reduce the carbon emissions. However, you have PLN in the middle, and PLN has been here for 50 years. The president is here for 5 years. So they say, okay, in 5 years you're gone, but we'll still be here. You see, and the people in power, the people behind the scene will still be there. So there's need to be, I think that the strong push from the government and but sometimes it gets stuck in the middle. So there is a wheel at the top of the chain, there is a wheel at the bottom, and in the middle it works.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, if people want to go solar, learn more, how it's the best way to contact you?
Go down our website, inecosolar.com. There is our contact link. Just go.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. That was really informative, actually. Yeah. Really interesting. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.